All right. What's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning in to the channel. My name is Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, coming to you live from Budapest, Hungary, where I'm at right now. It's about 5:50 p.m. in the afternoon, evening, though it's dark as hell outside already. And it's January 2nd, 2025. We're going to continue marching forward, doing the daily reading of the news for only about an hour or so, replying to all comments. You can catch me here anytime. We'll be reading all comments. Go subscribe to Backpack Bandits for travel content. Go check out the movie reviews we're doing on this channel. Go check out the Book to React series as well, and all the other good things that you can find on this place for Simon Hill Keeps It Trailin', all content related to it. Now, in yesterday's reading of the news, I had my fingers crossed. I was praying, I was hoping that the brother or the person in New Orleans who did the attack, number one, gets caught and is able to face justice, but unfortunately he was killed. But also in the chat, we were saying, we hope the person who did it is not a brother. And unfortunately, it turned out to be a brother, a Black American from like Texas with this Muslim name as well. And, you know, I have a lot to say about the story, being a Black American and a Muslim as well. But before we get into that, I also want to talk about what happened in Las Vegas as well. I'm sure all of you know. Driver of Tesla Cybertruck in Las Vegas blast has spent years in the U.S. Army. Man who died in an explosion that injured 7 outside Trump Hotel served over 19 years in the military. And that's going to lead up into a bigger conversation that I want to have by the end of this live stream. So just stay tuned for that. We're going to blow through this news story, the one about the suspect in New Orleans, and then talk about the larger issue of U.S. veterans committing heinous crimes in America, which happens more commonly than you would think. So this was published by Edward Helmore for TheGuardian.com, published on Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. So let's read it right here. The driver of the Tesla Cybertruck that caught fire and exploded in Las Vegas outside one of the hotels in Donald Trump's business empire has been identified as soldier Matthew Livelsberger, who is either an active member of or veteran of the U.S. Army from Colorado Springs, Colorado. So he's either an active member or a veteran. I'm confused. How did they not know that part already? But Livelsberger, that's a hard name to say. Livelsberger, 37, was killed in the explosion, while 7 bystanders were wounded. The military veteran, identified by Denver's KOAA and KTNV media outlets, was behind the wheel of the electric-powered truck, which investigators soon after discovered was packed with fireworks-style mortars, camping fuel, and gas canisters when it exploded on Wednesday morning. Law enforcement sources confirmed to local news outlets that the electric vehicle was rented from Turo, the vehicle sharing service that was also used in the New Orleans attack on the same day. There, suspect Shamsud Dean Jabbar used the Turo app to rent an electric Ford pickup truck used in that attack in the early hours of New Year's Day, which killed 15 and injured dozens more. News station Denver 7 cited law enforcement sources on Thursday that Livelsberger and Jabbar had served at the same military base, a possible connection the U.S. Army has not independently confirmed to The Guardian. CNN's Pentagon reporter cited multiple U.S. officials who said that Livelsberger was earlier described as a military veteran, but later on Thursday morning, it was reported that he is an active duty Special Forces operations sergeant who is on leave from Germany, where he was serving both 10th SFG, according to several media outlets, including CNN, citing multiple unnamed U.S. officials. Authorities were investigating the links as a possible connection between the 2 New Year's Day attacks, those sources told the outlet. The FBI is conducting operations and searches in Colorado Springs, Colorado, in relation to the Cybertruck explosion, sources told ABC News, with the assistance of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, otherwise known as ATF. Investigators are following leads in at least 4 states and overseas, sources said. In a national address on Wednesday, Joe Biden said that ongoing investigations into the New Orleans attack were fluid. The president added law enforcement officials were investigating whether the Bourbon Street attack was related at all to the Las Vegas Tesla vehicle explosion. No such connection had yet been uncovered, Biden said, and he pledged to keep Americans updated contemporaneously as the investigation progresses. Livelsberger served for more than 19 years in the Army, 18 of which were spent with Special Forces, according to his LinkedIn profile. His most recent role was listed as a remote and autonomous systems manager, which he had been for just 3 months. Jabbar enlisted in the Army in March 2007, working in both human resources and information technology, and was deployed to Afghanistan from February 2009 to January 2010, then transferred into the U.S. Army Reserve in 2015. He served until July 2020 and left the military with the rank of Staff Sergeant. The Trump Hotel was not damaged in the explosion. The Tesla founder, Elon Musk, later posted on X that the evil knuckleheads picked the wrong vehicle for a terrorist attack. Cybertruck actually contained the explosion and directed the blast upwards. Not even the glass doors of the lobby were broken. Colorado Springs addresses connected to Livelsberger were staked out and later raided by FBI agents on Wednesday. Kevin McHale, sheriff of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, confirmed at a news conference that the truck used in the attack was rented from Turo in Colorado and driven to Nevada. McMahill said investigators were able to track the truck's journey from Colorado to Las Vegas as the driver stopped at charging stations along the route, and that the truck was in front of the hotel for 15 to 20 seconds before it exploded. The sheriff said Musk helped the investigation by having the truck unlocked after it auto-locked in the blast and by giving investigators video of the suspect at charging stations along his 800-mile route. McMahill also addressed the political questions that hang over the Las Vegas incident. It's a Tesla truck, and we know that Elon Musk is working with President-elect Trump, and it's the Trump Tower, so there's obviously things to be concerned about there, he said. A Turo spokesperson said in a statement, "We are actively partnering with law enforcement authorities as they investigate both incidents. We do not believe that either renter involved in the Las Vegas and New Orleans attacks had a criminal background that would have identified them as a security threat." Musk said on Wednesday afternoon on X that, "We have now confirmed that the explosion was caused by a very large fireworks and/or bomb carried in the bed of the rented Cybertruck and is unrelated to the vehicle itself. All vehicle telemetry was positive at the time of the explosion." In an earlier post on the platform after attending a New Year's Eve party at Trump Mar-a-Lago Resort, Musk said, "The whole Tesla senior team is investigating this matter right now. We've never seen anything like this." And that's the end of the article right here. Here's the carnage from the explosion. Elon Musk said that this explosion in the Tesla truck was the worst type of terrorist attack to do because the Tesla truck will prevent the outward explosion. So it blasts upwards instead of outwards. So he says. I think he's also trying to cover his ass a bit. But we're going to close that and we're going to read back on what's happening in New Orleans. So, no terrorist to me. Relatives and friends saw few signs before attack. The man identified as the suspect in the New Year's Day terror attack in New Orleans served in the U.S. military, worked at Deloitte, and grew increasingly devout. So we're going to read this article here that was published on January 1st, 2025, written by Maria Jimenez Moya, Shannon Sims, J. David Goodman, and Mike Baker. Shamsuddin Bahar Jabbar appeared to be living a quiet but dutiful life of work and faith amid Houston's sprawling diversity. A veteran of the U.S. Army who studied information technology, converted to Islam, and recently held a six-figure job. Little in his outward persona suggested someone who could be responsible for what the authorities described as a brutal terrorist attack along the most famous streets in the United States on New Year's Day. In a white pickup rented in Houston, the authorities said Mr. Jabbar rammed through a crowd of revelers around 3 a.m. on Bourbon Street in New Orleans before opening fire, killing at least 15 people in one of the nation's worst terrorist attacks. Mr. Jabbar died in a shootout with the police, officials said. In the truck, they found an Islamic State flag, and a senior law enforcement official said that Mr. Jabbar had posted several videos to his Facebook account Tuesday evening, apparently addressed to his family and recorded while he was driving, in which he pledged allegiance to ISIS. Officials with the Federal Bureau of Investigation were still trying to determine the motive for the attack and believe that Mr. Jabbar was not solely responsible. Several Several improvised explosive devices were found and disposed of, officials said. The violence appeared to explode out of nowhere to those who had known Mr. Jabbar as a smart, caring brother and a quiet, helpful neighbor. But there were also signs of growing instability in his life. Mr. Jabbar divorced his first wife, Nakidra Charles Marsh, in 2012, then struggled with adjusting to civilian life after leaving active duty military service about a decade ago. He separated from his second wife. Dwayne Marsh, who is married to Mr. Jabbar's wife, said Mr. Jabbar had been acting erratically in recent months, being all crazy, cutting his hair after converting to Islam. Mr. Marsh said he and his wife stopped allowing the two daughters she shared with Mr. Jabbar, ages 15 and 20, to spend time with him. About a year ago, Mr. Jabbar moved into a rented home in a Muslim neighborhood north of Houston. On Wednesday, access to much of the neighborhood, including its local mosque, was blocked off by law enforcement as FBI investigators searched the area of trailers and small homes. One of Mr. Jabbar's neighbors, who was blocked from returning home during the search, said Mr. Jabbar kept to himself and usually stayed inside his home. The neighbor asked not to be named out of concern for his safety as a Muslim in the aftermath of the attack. Mr. Jabbar's brother, Abdur Jabbar, 24, said in an interview in Beaumont, Texas, where the brothers grew up, that they last spoke 2 weeks ago and that his brother did not mention any plans or a desire to go to New Orleans. He said that they had been brought up Christian, but that his brother had long ago converted to Islam. As far as I know, he was a Muslim for most of his life, said the younger Mr. Jabbar. What he did does not represent Islam. This is more some type of radicalization, not religion. He added that his brother, who had a 6-year-old son in addition to his older daughters, joined the military not knowing what he wanted to do in life. It was a new outlet to get some sort of discipline, Mr. Jabbar said. Shamsuddin Bahar Jabbar. I know I should be able to say that because I'm a Muslim. I studied Arabic. I should be able to say that. Shamsuddin, whatever. Shamsuddin Bahar Jabbar spent years in the military, moving between states, ending up in Fort Bragg in North Carolina at one point, according to court documents, and deploying once to Afghanistan. He worked mostly as an information technology specialist, according to a U.S. Army statement. He was discharged from the Army Reserve in 2020 with the rank of Staff Sergeant. Chris Poussin, 42, a retired Air Force veteran who also lives in Beaumont, said he attended middle school and high school with Sham, as he was known then, and described him as quiet, reserved, and really, really smart. He wasn't a troublemaker at all, Mr. Poussin said. He made good grades and was always well-dressed in button-ups and polo shirts. What I want to understand, I really want to understand. So he was young and black growing up in the Deep South. He was raised Christian, but he has a very Muslim name. And people in high school or middle school even were calling him Sham and calling him by his Muslim name. So I have to say this. Is this man an immigrant? Is he an immigrant? Where's his family from, family? I have to say this. I think he might be an immigrant because, number one, ain't no real black-ass parents, that are descended from generations of being in America are just going to let their son change their name to a Muslim name, Muhammad Ali, whatever, overnight. You get what I'm saying? Like, when you're a kid, they're not going to let you do that. You know what I mean? We got we got black people in our community that love them some Jesus. My daddy, my mama loved them some Jesus. Grandmama loved them some Jesus. Auntie, all the cousins loved them some Jesus. Feel me? Ain't nobody just going to let some kid who is 16, 15, 17, whatever, change their name along with changing their religion. They might let them change their religion, but I don't know if they would let him change their name. You get what I'm saying? And I saw the picture when he was in the military too, and he had his name Jabbar written on his army jacket or something like that, right? So that means his legal name was Jabbar. I think he is an immigrant. I have reason to believe he is an immigrant. Until I find out he had a Christian name before, most black people are not born with Muslim names or Muslim-like names. And what is his name? Shamsuddin. Deen means religion. So nobody's going to give you that Muslim name, Shamsuddin, unless they are Muslim as well. I think the brother was an immigrant or has immigrant lineage, at least. because no black people are going to let their son change their name and stuff like that. And listen, it doesn't even matter because what he did was heinous. And we know how white supremacists think. When the whites think that, oh, the niggas are acting up, they're just going to lynch us all. I just got done watching Rosewood, so you know how I feel. And plus, I know our history as well. When the white folks see one black person doing a bad thing, they just come and get us all. That's why everybody's nervous right now. You feel me? But I don't think he comes from our lineage, family. I don't think he comes from our lineage. I'm going to stand on that. I'm standing on that until somebody proves otherwise and explains some things that don't make sense. Okay, so Shamsuddin Bahar Jabbar spent years in the military, moving between states, ending up in Fort Bragg in North Carolina at one point, according to court documents, and deploying once to Afghanistan. He worked mostly as an information technology specialist, according to a U.S. Army statement. He was discharged from the Army Reserve in 2020 with the rank of Staff Sergeant. Chris Poussin, 42, a retired Air Force veteran who also lives in Beaumont, said he attended middle school and high school with Sham, as he was known then, and described him as quiet, reserved, and really, really smart. He wasn't a troublemaker at all, Mr. Poussin said. He made good grades and was always well-dressed in button-ups and polo shirts. They reconnected on Facebook after Mr. Jabbar got out of active duty military service in 2015, at which point Mr. Poussin noticed that Mr. Jabbar had become deeply involved in his Muslim faith. Before, if he was into it, he wasn't open or verbal about it, Mr. Poussin said. But at that point, he said, Mr. Jabbar was making lots of posts about religion on Facebook. It was never Muslim extremist stuff, and he was never threatening any violence, but you could see that he had gotten really passionate. Still, the attack came as a shock to him. This is a complete 80 from the quiet, reserved person I knew, he said. Mr. Jabbar had complained in the past about the challenges of life as a veteran. In a 2015 interview with Georgia State University student paper, Mr. Jabbar said that the Department of Veterans Affairs had made it difficult to get paid through the GI Bill. He attended GSU from 2015 until 2017 when he received a bachelor's degree in computer information systems, the school said. It's such a large agency, Mr. Jabbar explained to a student reporter. One missed signature or sheet of paper could mean slipping through the cracks. He also said he found it challenging to communicate without using military jargon. More recently, Mr. Jabbar had tried to real estate. In a YouTube video from 2020 that appears to have been posted by Mr. Jabbar, he spoke positively about his skills, his lifelong history in Beaumont, and his service in the military. I've been here all my life, with the exception of traveling for the military, he said. On a now deleted Twitter account, Mr. Jabbar wrote in 2021 about his work in real estate and his interest in cryptocurrency. He also expressed an interest in firearms, once writing, "It's a shoot the guns type of Saturday morning." He later posted a photo of two people standing while a third person fired a gun. An account with an identical username on a classified site dedicated to firearms shows that user trying to sell a pistol, ammunition, and a shotgun. The posts on that website were made in November and December. But Mr. Jabbar did not appear to have a history of violence. Criminal records in Texas show charges for minor infractions 2 decades ago, misdemeanor theft in 2002, driving with an invalid license in 2005. The vehicle used in the New Orleans attack, an electric Ford pickup, was registered to a Houston man who made vehicles available for rent on a peer-to-peer car-sharing website. That man, who asked that his name not be made public, said the FBI called him and he explained that he had not been driving the vehicle, but he had rented it out. He said he had been asked by the federal agents not to discuss the matter publicly. Records show that Mr. Jabbar was married twice, with his first marriage ending in 2012. In the midst of a second divorce in January 2022, Mr. Jabbar wrote an email to his wife's lawyer in which he described financial problems. "I cannot afford the house payment," he wrote. "It is past due in excess of $27,000 and in danger of foreclosure if we delay settling the divorce," he wrote. He said in the email that the business corporation he had formed, a real estate company, had lost more than $28,000 in the previous year and that he had taken on $16,000 in credit card debt. God damn. I thought my debt load was heavy, but I'm chilling, man. I pay off my debts. Anyway, at the same time, he said in a court document from later that same year, he said he worked at the accounting firm Deloitte and made about $120,000 a year. Okay, he a six-figure brother. A company spokesman said Mr. Jabbar had served in a staff level role since being hired in 2021. He was no terrorist to me, said Marilyn Bradford, 70, who lived upstairs from Mr. Jabbar in a Houston apartment building where he lived from 2021 until about a year ago. Before he left, she said, he gave her a dryer, a steamer, and other household supplies. I said, oh, you are giving things to remember you by, he laughed. Like he always did, she said. He was an outcast person. I was the only one he really talked to. I used to refer to him as my buddy. Miss Bradford said she would see him spending time on the weekend with his 3 children and was always helpful. He would ask, ma'am, do you want me to help you with that? He would help me carry my groceries. Now, I gotta say this, man. I'm pretty sure, and I'm not trying to be pompous or toot myself, whatever. I'm pretty sure Mr. Jabbar saw some of my videos on YouTube. I'm pretty sure Shamsuddin Bahar Jabbar saw my video on Tunisia, and I talked about the racism in Tunisia. I'm pretty sure he saw my video. I just want to tell everybody out there, once again, I got to make this exactly clear, right? If you are a young black Muslim man in America, don't commit terrorism. Don't try to blow yourself up. Don't try to kill people fighting for ISIS or Hamas or Hezbollah or any of those groups. Do not commit violence. I am not telling anybody to commit violence. I encourage every young black Muslim man in America to not commit violence, but to just get the hell out of America, first and foremost. There are beautiful places in the world where you can live a full Muslim black life outside of America. And if I could talk to Shamsuddin Bahar Jabbar, because I'm pretty sure, I would assume, I'm just making the assumption. He probably saw my video in Tunisia and was like, yeah, I can't go out there to the Muslim world because the Arabs still call black people slaves and all that sort of stuff, right? And listen, man, listen. It's hard being a Muslim in America. It's hard being black in America. But it's still much better anywhere else in the world. America is the most wicked, evil, disastrous place you could ever be if you're a black man in this world. So I encourage all black men, but particularly young black Muslim men, do not commit violence. Don't blow yourself up. Don't kill these crackers. As much as we want to strangle these crackers, get the fuck out of America. Just leave. Just leave and live happy like me in Budapest, in Istanbul, in Mauritius, in Kenya, in Tanzania. There are so many beautiful places in the world. Just don't stay in America. I'm saying that. And the way things are looking now, looks like Trump is going to be trying to kick out all the niggas and all the Muslims. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying to all the people out here, man. And but the point I'm trying to get at with this video, right? Every year in America, the veterans come back and commit all sorts of crimes. Sometimes the crimes aren't as heinous as this, like ramming cars into Bourbon Street in New Orleans on New Year's Day, right? But a lot of Americans, if you ask them, what do you see on the news often? We see veterans coming home and killing their entire families, going in, shooting up schools and churches and all sorts of stuff, right? Joining white supremacist terrorist groups. Veterans do a lot of bad stuff in America, right? And it's not because the veterans are bad people, right? It's because we live in a warlike system in America where we send young children, 18-year-old children, out there into the world to go kill brown people across the world or go bomb Asian people until they're in the Stone Age. We live in a sick, twisted society in America that's very warlike, and I want to know why. We should be asking ourselves, if we're Americans, why does this happen? And so I put the link here to this document that you can find online in the description of this video. Federal offenders who served in the armed forces. This is a document produced by the U.S. government, the United States Sentencing Commission on October 2021. You can find this document. I will not be reading the entire document, but I'll just be reading the preface and some statistics and some information to help you realize how big of an issue it is that veterans are hurting other Americans and hurting themselves. I have a friend. His name was George Way. I have his name tattooed on my arm right here. My friend George, we grew up together, played basketball together every day after school, tried to holler at girls, all sorts of stuff, right? I end up going to college. George ends up joining the Army. George comes back 4 years later after I graduate college. He does his time. He went to Iraq and Afghanistan. Truck driver guy. Could have hit IEDs. He survived. Came back. He was balling. I was broke. I looked up to George. George was in the military. He started boxing. He started getting real swole. He started having hoes. He came back with a nice new Dodge Challenger or a Charger, something like that, right? He had everything and I had nothing at the same time after 4 years apart. Our lives went drastically different. 2 years later, I moved to Miami. George moves to Dallas. George ends up killing himself. George ends up taking his life, and I miss him every day, and I regret not picking up the phone when he was calling me, saying, like, trying to reach out to me and giving his last call, but he did send me a long-ass text message right before he killed himself, and I miss him every day. There are so many veterans that kill themselves, and I would just say this: kill yourself before you do a terrorist attack. If you're a veteran out there thinking about killing your family, shooting up the school, do something, just kill yourself. Kill yourself before you do something, because I'm glad George killed himself instead of like killing everybody else. You feel me? But anyway, I just wanted to tell that story to say that a lot of people have been affected by the militarization of our society in America. But I'm going to be reading here from this article right here. Federal offenders who served in the armed forces. The Department of Veteran Affairs estimates that there are more than 19 million Americans who are veterans. Over 10,000 veteran offenders were in the custody of the Federal Bureau of Prisons at the end of 2019, accounting for almost 6% of all BOP inmates. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. And keep in mind, in America, we lock up more people than anywhere else in the world per capita. I'm going to read a little bit of the introduction here. The authors of this report are Glenn Schmidt. He is a lawyer and has an MPP. He is the director of the Office of Research and Data. And Amanda Kerbel, she has an MA. She is a research associate at the Office of Research and Data. So the Department of Veteran Affairs estimates that there are more than 9 million Americans who are veterans. Since 9/11, almost 4 million Americans have served in uniform, with about 2.5 million deployed overseas to a combat zone. As of the end of 2016, the Bureau of Justice Statistics of the U.S. Department of Justice estimated that there were 107,400 veterans in federal and state prisons, including local jails. That's a lot of people, man. 107,000 people in federal and state custody after serving in the military. Now, I think that's a failure of the U.S. government to take care of our veterans, but also that our society continues to produce such violent people. Because what you're making an army, you're making a collection of hitters. You're making a collection of killers, sociopaths, and breaking young men. You get what I'm saying? Anyway, Thomas Edison says another jihadi, unfortunately, but is actually more another veteran. Because we're going to see more veterans do heinous things to Americans, right? Until America changes its warlike ways, all right? But I'm going to continue here. So over 10,000 veteran offenders were in the custody of the Federal Bureau of Prisons at the end of 2019, accounting for almost 6% of all BOP inmates. Veterans in state prisons accounted for 7.9% of all state prisoners, a decrease from a high of 24% of all persons incarcerated in state prisons and 25% of all persons incarcerated in jails in 1978. Wow. All right, Thomas Anderson said religion of peace. Well, you know, it's about as peaceful as a religion as Christianity. You know that same religion where the white folks used to string us up and cut our penises off and put it in jars while they burned crosses on our front lawns? It's as peaceful as that. The question of whether and to what extent military service should be considered in determining the appropriate sentence for veteran offenders has long been discussed in the criminal justice system. The United States Supreme Court has observed that the nation has a long tradition of according leniency to veterans in recognition of their service, especially for those who fought on the front lines. In a recent article, United States Circuit Judge Michael Daley Hawkins noted there is widespread public acceptance of the notion that military veterans should be treated differently in many aspects from their civilian counterparts. This acceptance may be attributable to a general respect for the sacrifice of members of all volunteer force an all-volunteer force and the knowledge that today's veteran may have been subjected, even repeatedly subjected, to life-threatening events that general public may never know. All right, going here, Thomas Anderson says there's a lot of veterans doing attacks in Europe. Ain't that the truth? This is the point. I'm not trying to say that we in America have something excessively different. We do have something excessively different by having a lot of people in prison and also having military bases all over the world and probably the largest volunteer military on the planet. That is excessively different. But the same thing still repeats. The same thing still repeats. We need to have demilitarization in America because we don't have to be like other European countries because America is better than all those other countries, Thomas Anderson. Do we not live in the most richest, most prosperous, most successful nation that has ever existed? We should be the exception to the rule, not the constant arbiter of the worst types of rules that there are in our lives, in society. But Thomas Anderson doesn't have anything to say about that. It's because white folks over there do it, so it's not so bad for us. This is how niggas think. This is how niggas think. This is how niggas think. Anyway, man, let's take a look right here. Let's take a look right here. Federal prisoners in the Bureau of Prisons, 174,391. That's and the veterans are 10,252. That's 5.9%. Number one, that is a staggering number to have people locked up in a country, man. That is a very staggering number. So I'm not gonna read all of this very long report, but we're just gonna read this part. As discussed in more detail below, courts are statutorily required to consider an offender's history and characteristics, including military service, in determining the appropriate sentence. In this regard, the United States sentencing guidelines specifically authorize judges to consider an offender's prior military service when determining whether to depart from the federal sentencing guidelines. This report provides an analysis of the relatively small numbers of veterans each year who are sentenced for a federal felony or a Class A misdemeanor offense, most often committed well after they left military service. In particular, the report examines federal offenders with prior military service who were sentenced in fiscal year 2019, the crimes they committed, and an assessment of whether that prior service was given special consideration at sentencing. Since most veteran offenders are sentenced for offenses other than federal felony or Class A misdemeanor offenses, and therefore not reflected in the commissioner's data, the report also discusses how many states and even a few federal districts have established specialized courts for less serious offenses to provide veterans with additional opportunities for rehabilitation and re-entry into the community. So basically what they're trying to say here is like, you know, if I go in front of the judge, I might get a harsher sentence than somebody who did the same crime, but they're a veteran, because they're going to take that into consideration. So here are just the key findings of this report. This is the last part here. So, all right, Thomas Anderson said, there's another 4 involved. Are they veterans, Simon? I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. What, are there other 4 people involved? You have to put the link to that, Thomas. You have to explain yourself. You're just saying stuff here. But the 2 people that, one guy, Matthew Livelsberger, blew himself up. He was a veteran. And listen here, man. This shows you people like Thomas Anderson do not like to read. We're literally reading the stats here. We're literally reading the stats that about 10,000 veterans are locked up in jail. Now, let me tell you, in a healthy society where somebody gets a job, and 10% of those people, 5% of those people end up going to prison. Would you say that's a healthy job? Would you say that's a healthy job? Or would you say that's a healthy society? I'm just asking you that. If English teachers like me, if 9% of English teachers end up molesting their students, 9% of English teachers end up molesting your students, wouldn't you say there's a problem either in the system or in the job itself that allows that sort of thing to continue to happen? Anyway, I'm going to continue here. In fiscal year 2019, 4.4% of all U.S. citizens sentenced in the federal courts for a felony or Class A misdemeanor had served in the military. For these offenders, the average length of time between separation from the military and the sentence for the federal offense was 23 years. The most common crime type committed by both veteran offenders and citizen offenders overall was drug trafficking, 25% and 37.6% respectively. Veteran offenders, however, committed child pornography offenses more than 4 times as often as citizen offenders overall. Okay, wow, okay, that's crazy. I'm gonna put that in the chat right here. We're gonna put that in the chat, man. Hold on. This is from the U.S. government, man. This ain't from, you get what I'm saying? All right, Thomas Anderson said there's more involved in the tech. You gotta link the article, man. Y'all just be saying stuff. Send me the link to the article to actually read it and get the information. The point of this is to read. It's not just to talk out of your ass, man. I know a lot of niggas like to talk out of their ass on YouTube and they don't actually like to research or have critical thinking skills or challenge themselves through the text, but you gotta send the text. It's not that hard. Just put it in the comments. Put it in the comments. Anyway, so veteran offenders, however, committed child pornography offenses more than 4 times as often as citizen offenders overall, 11.6% compared to 2.7%, and sex abuse offenses more than twice as often, 6.7% compared to 2.4%. The sentences imposed on veteran offenders and citizen offenders overall were similar in terms of type of sentence imposed and average sentence imposed. For veteran offenders, 79.2% received a sentence of imprisonment compared to 83.9% 38.9% of all citizen offenders. And the average sentence for veteran offenders was 64 months compared to 62 months for all citizen offenders. Although veteran offenders were more likely to be sentenced below the applicable guideline range, 38.9% received a downward variance compared to 31.8% of all citizen offenders. Military service does not appear to have a significant influence on the sentences imposed. The court specifically cited an offender's military service as a reason for the sentence imposed in only 15% of cases involving veteran offenders. When the court did cite an offender's military service as a reason for the sentence, it was almost always for service that the military had characterized as honorable. Only two other offender characteristics were correlated with sentences where a court cited the offender's military service as a reason. 2/3, 66.9% of the offenders whose military service was cited by the court indicated that they had some history of mental health problems, compared to 51.1% for veteran offenders generally. Also, more than half, 54.8% of all the offenders whose service was cited by the court had served in a combat zone, compared to 22.6% for all veteran offenders. All right. So, Thomas Anderson said, why join foreign wars? I don't know. You tell me why people continue to vote Republican. You have to tell me why people continue to vote Republican. Because the Republicans got us into Iraq. Republicans got us into Vietnam, Korea. Got us into all these foreign wars. Republicans got us into Iraq 2 times and Afghanistan. I don't know. You tell me why people continue to vote right wing. Anyway, you still didn't send me the link to the article about the 4 other people, as if that matters for the fact that there are about 10,000 veterans locked up in the U.S. for heinous crimes like child pornography, beating up their wives, and killing people. All right? So Thomas Anderson said, Dems are starting these wars. What are you talking about? I want to ask you, Thomas Anderson, what did George Bush do? What did George Bush 1 and 2? What did they do? I mean, come on now. Some of y'all are really dense. I can tell some of y'all never read a book. And that's really embarrassing. But this is the point of the live stream, is to walk y'all through text, because I know y'all don't like to read. Y'all just like to listen to like Tariq Nasheed live streams and like celebrity gossip and stuff. But Simon Hill Keeps It Trill will be patient with you and walk you through a text and inform you. Okay? But anyway here, Nixon got us into Vietnam. Come on now. Come on now. I mean, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? But y'all are really dense. The Democrats are getting us into Iraq and Afghanistan. Okay, all right. Anyway, I'm going to be reading this article here from a Turkish fellow. So shout out to Turkey, yeah? This guy's name is Uğur. I can't pronounce that. My wife ain't here. So I'm going to call him Uğur Orak. And he is an associate professor at Middle Tennessee State University, and he has a PhD. And he wrote this very, very interesting text here about more about why the veterans, from service to sentence, unraveling risk factors for criminal justice involvement among U.S. veterans. And this was published on October 2023. This was written by Uğur Orak, PhD. Very short text, so we're going to be reading through this, all right? So in 2021, there were an estimated 16 million veterans in the United States, with roughly 200,000 additional service members transitioning to civilian life each year. For most of these individuals, military service is transformative in valuable ways, providing important skills and opportunities. For some, however, the military experience and associated risk factors may lead to adverse outcomes, including criminal behavior and contact with the criminal justice system. Recent studies show that approximately 1/3 of veterans report a history of arrest, compared to 1/5 of the non-veteran population. All right. Thomas Anderson says, you want Soros money? I'll take anybody's money, man. If you want me to be a buck dancing COON like you and start shilling for the right wing, shilling for our own destruction, just pay me. All you got to do is send the super chat, and I will say all the hateful, bigoted stuff about women, immigrants, Muslims, whatever. But I'll take the Soros money. I'll take the Coke money, if that's what you want, man. You want Coke money or Coke cock? How about that? You want Coke money or Coke cock? How about that? Which one you want, man? Which one you want? Because obviously you want one or the other. Anyway, I'm going to continue here. While this statistic suggests veterans are more likely to encounter the criminal justice system, it does not necessarily indicate that military service on its own increases the likelihood of criminal behavior. Rather, it underlines the importance of investigating the role of military service in criminal offending, including the risk factors that might make veterans particularly susceptible to justice involvement. Determining these factors can inform efforts to identify veterans who have the greatest probability of criminal behavior and help ensure that they receive services and support to reduce that probability, assisting our nation's veterans and protect public safety. All right. Thomas Anderson says your party wants to destroy the family. If you're talking about the Communist Party, Tom, because I am a communist, Tom, I've told y'all multiple times, I am a card-carrying communist, not a Democrat. I don't know. I know y'all are really stupid. Tom, you're really dumb. Tom, you're really dense. Like, really dense. Like, come on, man. Come on, man. You got to read a book, man. And do we want to destroy the family? The nuclear family, yes. The nuclear family, yes. Yes, we do. Thank you. Thank you for admitting it. Yep, we want to destroy the nuclear family. All right, anyway, this research brief summarizes what is known that the association between military service and criminal justice involvement. It breaks down the factors that might predict criminal behavior among veterans into three categories: veteran characteristics, individual level risk factors, veteran experiences during or related to military service, service-related risk factors, and veteran experiences following military service, post-service risk factors. While space limitations prevent a discussion of all risk factors, this brief covers those factors that have received the most attention in the existing research, with an acknowledgement that many common risk factors discussed in the criminal justice literature have not been examined in research on justice-related veterans. For example, affiliation with antisocial peers. The brief then identifies the limitations of previous research and concludes with recommendations for new directions for researchers and policy makers. All right, continuing here. So here are the key takeaways. The relationship between military service and criminal justice involvement among veterans is multifaceted and can be attributed to a wide range of risk factors that exist before, during, and after military service. Research suggests that recent veterans are twice as likely as non-veterans to face incarceration, while veterans from previous eras, such as World War II and the Vietnam War, were half as likely as non-veterans to become incarcerated. Military service members are more likely than their civilian counterparts to have socioeconomic and family characteristics called ACEs and personality traits that, without targeted intervention and support systems, may increase their risk of criminal justice involvement. Combat exposure and its associated physical and mental health problems, for example, PTSD, TBI, mood disorders, and substance use disorders, are significantly associated with a greater likelihood of criminal justice involvement among veterans. For example, TBI is associated with a 59% increase in the odds of justice involvement among veterans. Moral injury and military sexual trauma may be significant risk factors for criminal justice involvement among veterans, but a more rigorous assessment of this connection is needed. The transition to civilian life can create readjustment challenges and relationship strain for many veterans, which may increase the risk of criminal justice involvement. Approximately 1/3 of veterans with mental health and/or substance use disorders do not receive treatment, often due to stigma, negative beliefs about treatment, and a bad paper discharge status. These barriers to care may increase the risk of criminal justice involvement. And finally, homelessness is a significant factor for criminal justice involvement. Studies show that approximately 30% of incarcerated veterans have a history of homelessness, double the percentage of homelessness among the general incarcerated population, which is 15%. All right. So Thomas Anderson said, if we help our veterans, we need to close down the border. I know Tom is trolling. I know Tom is trolling because there's no way somebody could just say that. There's no way that somebody could say that. And I'm pretty sure Thomas Anderson voted nah in the poll right here that we have on this channel. Very interested to see what y'all got to say. Would you encourage your child to join your nation's military? 33% of y'all said yeah. 67% of y'all said no. And nobody voted for the other two. And you know what? I can agree with that. To wrap this all up, man, we need to do more to demilitarize in America. We need to I don't know why now all the right-wing people are now automatically saying, like, the military budget is out of control and, the Pentagon gets too much money and we're spending all this money for Ukraine and Israel and all that sort of stuff. When we on the left have been saying defund the military for the longest. But I digress. As long as people agree with that and we actually push our politicians or actually get involved in the process ourselves to demilitarize and defund the military, this will be a positive thing. America has been nothing but the greatest source of evil in this world, and our military adventures have caused the deaths of many, many innocent people. We do not need to continue to fund the beast. That will save many, many American children. The 18-year-old, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds are still kids. You should not put 18-year-old on a plane, fly him out to Afghanistan, and tell him to shoot at grown men who are fighting for their independence and their country. No, we shouldn't be doing that anymore. We need to demilitarize, shrink the military here, and get people the mental health treatment that they need by actually having universal health care and universal mental health care. Last comment I'm going to read before I shut this down. Thomas Anderson says, if you care about Black America, why do you want open borders? Because the borders are not real, Tom. Those borders in America were built by blood. They were built, the border that we have between Mexico, right? Essentially, the Mexicans wanted to abolish slavery. The Americans wanted to keep slavery. Americans went to war with Mexico to make sure that the white folks could still keep us in chains. Now today, to say that for somehow, some way, we are going to say like, we're going to fight and die and defend this American border. America's sovereignty has never helped Black people. I have to make this very clear. Thomas Anderson, you might be very dense, but Tom, one thing you got to know before you die is America is an evil country, and there is nothing we want more in America than to see America destroyed peacefully. We're not going to blow ourselves up. We're not going to kill people, but we want America destroyed, Tom. And I don't care how that happens. And we as Black folks shouldn't be so tied to the white man's leg that we think a destroyed America is the destruction of us. Thomas Anderson is one of those FBA people who likes to say stuff like, Black Americans have survived everything, so having Trump in office ain't that damn bad. Well, if we can survive everything, we can survive the destruction of America, which is what we want. All right? Thomas Anderson, yes, I hate America with all of my heart, body, and soul. I hate America with all my heart, body, and soul. There's a reason I don't live there, Tom. There's a reason I don't live there, Tom. Thomas Anderson, you swim in milk too, because you swim in the cum that comes from my dick. Nigga, you be sucking on my dick, you be in my chat. You can suck my big fat black cock, Tom. You can suck my big fat black cock, Tom, and swim in the milk of that. You feel me? So I'm going to start swimming in your mama, too. That's what I'm saying. But yes, let's keep this back on track. Yes, we hate America. We hate America. We want America to be destroyed. And we want to save the lives of the children because America is destroying its own children by sending them to go to war, taking these kids from broken homes and sending them out there to die or to come back and kill us. We don't want that. Okay? So I want to end with this part right here. I'm going to end right here. Like, what are the next steps that we could do from the smarter person, Mr. Orak? What does he say in the text right here? Conclusions and next steps. I'm going to read this last part, then we're going to cut this short. So, criminal justice involvement among military veterans is a multifaceted issue with multiple predictors, including veterans' early life experiences, socioeconomic background, personality traits, experiences during military service, mental and physical health problems, and readjustment difficulties during the transition to civilian life. Research on the association between military service and criminal justice involvement is still in its infancy. It is not clear how individuals' socio-demographic and health-related trends among veterans interact to influence the risk of criminal behavior. Few studies on criminal justice involvement among veterans use the most rigorous causal research methods, instead relying on administrative, clinical, or non-random samples of veterans. Additionally, most of the research on veterans and criminal justice involvement is based on data gathered at one point in time rather than tracking outcomes over longer periods. Overall, an estimation of the findings and limitations of previous studies, as outlined in this brief, suggests several promising new directions for future research and policy-making efforts. All right, Thomas Anderson says borders don't exist. I want to ask you, Tom, when did Nevada become a state? When did Hawaii become a state? When did these places become states? When did these places become states? And show me where on the map you can point to that a border actually exists. Where can I go see an actual border? Tell me why the nation means so much to you. All right? Tell me why the nation means so much to you. Tom, please explain yourself. But I'm going to continue reading here, something you don't do, Tom. So risk and needs assessments are frequently employed by criminal justice organizations to assess the likelihood of recidivism, make bail decisions, and determine the level of supervision needed during probation and parole. Similar assessments could also be used during the transition from military to civilian life to identify veterans with the greatest risk of criminal justice involvement. Following this identification, services could be provided to select group of high-risk veterans to minimize that risk. These assessments should be designed based on validated assessment tools and statistical methods rather than subjective evaluations to reduce implicit and explicit bias, avoid unnecessary programming, and increase objectivity, transparency, and accountability. Future studies should disentangle the effects of military service from the effects of pre-existing risk factors on criminal justice involvement and evaluate the differences in criminal justice involvement among service members from various socioeconomic, cultural, and demographic backgrounds. To accomplish this task, more longitudinal studies are needed along with additional data shared between key military and criminal justice agencies, including the Departments of Defense, Veteran Affairs, and Justice. Combining longitudinal studies with this data sharing would allow for an analysis capable of more clearly identifying veteran risk factors by tracking them from their time. Studies should also be complemented by an increase in qualitative studies to gain a more detailed and nuanced understanding of justice-involved veterans' perspectives and experiences. Okay? Thomas Anderson says, you're in Hungary with the snow bunny. You lost FBA status. My men. Okay, Thomas Anderson, I know you're thinking about men, but I am a man. I know you don't know how to spell. Yes, I'm living in Hungary. I'm living free. I ran off of the plantation. And yes, I have my beautiful white queen with me. Thomas Anderson, what do you have? You have American taxes. You have American infrastructure. You have the American healthcare system. You have the American voting system. Thomas Anderson, I'll take what I have 1,000,000 times over, any day over what you have, Thomas Anderson. And Tom, I have to ask you, you're talking about my FBA status. I prove my status with my video, Foundational Black American, which you can find on my channel. Tom, now I have to ask you, where your family from, nigga? Where your family from? Because your hairline looked crazy in that thumbnail. Thomas Anderson, we're looking at you, man. You know we can see you, my guy. You know we can see you. We can go to your channel and look at that hairline. My guy, Thomas Anderson, don't you ever start talking. You look crazy. Thomas Anderson, you look literally crazy. You have no business talking with that hairline. You look like a jungle monkey, my guy. You look like a savage out of the Congo. You should not be talking. You look like you flew in on a wheel of an American Airlines flight. Thomas Anderson, don't you ever come talking about me, how I'm living my life, when you look like this. Nigga, you need to shave. You look like broke Rick Ross. You look like broke Ross, okay? Thomas Anderson, I'm not like you, because, nigga, I do not wear sandals, nigga. Thomas Anderson, that is not your name. You are literally on an airplane in your picture, my guy. You are flying to America. You are literally a tether. Thomas Anderson, you are literally a tether. You are taking a picture in an airplane talking about I'm going to America to tell those FBA niggas what it really is. Shut the fuck up, Thomas Anderson. You be talking crazy when you are literally in your picture being a literal tether. Thomas Anderson, I will make this the thumbnail of the video. Don't ever play with me, boy. You look crazy. Where the fuck is your mustache, my guy? Nigga, your lips is chapped. You got them big dick sucking lips to sucking on the white man's dick to get a green card. You did something strange for some change. This is what real Black American melanin look like. You are a musty tether. I smell you through the picture. Thomas Anderson, we smell you through the picture. Nigga, you are trying to blend in. You are a musty tether, nigga. Don't you ever come talk to me, nigga. You are a musty tether beach, nigga. Musty tether, musty tether, musty tether. That is what you is. And yes, I will stay in Hungary. I will stay in Hungary. I won't be hopping on flights, taking pictures like I am finally on a plane, nigga. These niggas in Nigeria, they will never see me again. Now, boy, you look crazy. You cannot be talking. I be sparing y'all. But this is what y'all want. Y'all say stupid, you get stupid prizes. You get stupid prizes. Anyway, let me snap that thing up before he deletes his picture, because he's a pussy. I know he's going to delete that picture. We're going to snap that thing up real quick. We're going to make this a thumbnail, right? Because stupid is and stupid does. Okay. All right. Thomas Anderson, this is not natural black hair, man. This is beeswax, the sweat from your underarms, and sandalwood. Thomas Anderson, this is not natural black hair. Okay? No, Thomas Anderson. Thomas Anderson. I've been had dreads, and my dreads look way better than yours, man. But you know, we have real black American icons, people that you don't know about, man. People that can rock the baldy. They can rock the baldy, real low key. Michael Jordan, Tupac, shit. All the members of Onyx, you feel me? Jadakiss. I don't know, you don't know who they are, because you cannot pronounce the words in American rap music, nigga. But I will let you go back to flying on planes, jettisoning all across the world, you musty tether bitch. Don't you ever come talking to me crazy when you look like that, my guy. You are a musty tether. Musty, musty tether. The mustiest of tethers. Literally on an airplane. Literally trying to fly away and flee from your homeland. Literally trying to fly away and flee from your homeland. Then you want to come talk to the big dog. You want to come talk to a Louisiana nigga. Nigga, I will slap the shit out of you. But then I would have to wash my hands to get all that musk and gunk off of it. You musty, musty tether beach. You musty tether beach. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up here. Y'all be easy out there. Let's close up this poll. Let me see what y'all thought. Let's see what y'all thought. Okay. And, all right. Yeah, the poll's closed. Polls closed. Polls closed due to AIDS. Okay. Would you encourage your child to join the nation's military? 71% of y'all said no, and I'm actually very happy and proud of y'all. Okay? So y'all be easy out there, and peace.